Welcome to Know Your Sheet. From tracking targets to budget battles, I've got a sheet for that. Let's get organized so you can know your sheet too. In this mini-series, we will work to know your budget sheet. This mini-series will walk you through setting up a spreadsheet to help you keep track of your income and expenses so you can start taking more control of where your money goes. This video will continue from where we left off last time, where we have our income and all the data from regular and irregular expenses. Before we get into the visualizations, let's make this spreadsheet more readable. Something you'll learn about me is that I love to color code everything. So let's start with painting this spreadsheet so we can easily see what type of data we have here. Let's make the income section green. And we'll make the regular expenses this tannish color. And I'm going to pick blue for utilities. Let's go ahead and use some gray for the irregular expenses. And let's do yellow for the credit cards because those should be eye-popping standout because we should really pay attention to our credit card bills because a mistake there could cost us a lot of extra money in interest and fees. And just to clean the spreadsheet up a little bit, we'll delete some of the rows we don't really need right now. And of course, let's fix the headings to these rows as well. Now let's zoom in on the differences and do some conditional formatting so we can see when we are doing well and when we are not. So we'll just remove the current cell colorings we have and add some conditions where it will highlight red when it's less than 0 and green when it's greater than 0. And to keep it consistent, let's have the minimum savings that we need based on the irregular expenses. Let's go ahead and make that gray as well. And to highlight how we're doing with the savings and the minimum savings we need to have, let's go ahead and add a row where we check the difference to see if we do have enough in our savings. And now that we have that difference, let's go ahead and add conditional formatting. Since all the rows are positive, let's put in a fake number here to make sure our conditional formatting is working, and then undo it after. Let's label this row savings minus held amounts for bills. Go ahead and highlight it yellow. Let's go ahead and hide some of these extra rows. Now that we have all this awesome data, we can create visualizations if that's how you'd prefer to see this information. So let's go ahead and start with the running savings total. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and insert a chart. We're going to start with a line chart. We're going to name this savings, and then let's select the total running savings row we have here. And then for the labels, we want the months of the year that we used as headings at the top. We can add data to this chart, but for this one, let's just keep it simple with just the total savings for our first chart. Let's rename this to accumulative savings to be more accurate. Now let's create another chart that's more complicated and have a little more data. We'll start with the monthly in and out difference. Let's go ahead and add the in and out difference to the chart's data. And once again, we'll want the months of the year to be the label across the bottom on the x-axis. Now, alongside the monthly in and out difference, let's go ahead and add the income as a line on this chart as well. And then we'll also include the total bills. So we have a visual of what the in, out, and difference on the same chart. If you don't like to look at line charts and prefer bar charts, easy. You just go in and change the type of chart, and the data you selected stays the same, but you can view it as a different visualization. I personally prefer line charts because I like to see the trend and the pattern, and you can kind of see the slope of the direction and angle of how steep the lines are when it transitions from one month to another. I just feel like I can see a little bit more about what's going on when it's a line chart. So we're going to change these back to line charts. And let's go ahead and add a legend to this chart so we can see what the 3 lines represent. And we'll go ahead and add a chart title as well. Okay, let's add another line chart. We're going to go ahead and use the same in and out difference row. So we can see it's the same line chart. But now we can add a trend line so we can see how we're doing just overall. And you can see that over the year, our savings actually depleting, not increasing like it should, or like we would like to see. This is a great way to visualize the ups and downs over time. Use whatever visualization speaks to you best, but be sure to use the one that shows each month so you can easily see the trend over the year. So we've looked a lot at the data for the current year, but another really useful thing to do, especially if you've been tracking your budget over multiple years, is to do line charts to compare previous year to current year or any year to any year. And what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that the 2025 spreadsheet is last year's 2024 and 2025 V2 will be this year's so that we have data to compare. Let's add both of those total bills to this chart. And then let's go ahead and add a title to this chart. And those are simple ways you can put data into charts. Obviously, select the rows, the data that you want to visualize. If there's a goal, something you're trying to look for, if it's easier for you to absorb and think about the data in that way. One last little tidbit I want to share on this video is with the irregular expenses. Let's go to the irregular expense sheet. And something I like to do is validate my data. I know that's a little weird because there's a lot of hand-entered manual things here, but since we separated out the irregular expenses so that we can calculate all these things, something I like to do, as I've mentioned in a previous video, I really like to itemize everything when I'm keeping track. I'm kind of a data fanatic. I like to keep track of all pieces of data and then aggregate it after. So what I like to do is actually list out all my irregular expenses and then add them back into the budget spreadsheet. With that, I want to make sure I've actually referenced all of them and not forgotten anything. So let's go ahead and add a column here where we check if we've used this expense on the budget spreadsheet, like we've referenced it at all. So we can do this by creating a very simple X lookup. That one's my favorite, where we look up the expense and see if it is referenced at all in that first column within the budget spreadsheet. And what we'll do is, since we're not actually looking up a value, we'll just return itself if we are able to find it. And we can copy that formula all the way down. So now, let's say car maintenance, we decide to change it to oil change. You can see it is not, it creates an error, the hashtag NA, not available, is not referenced in the budget spreadsheet, and we can see that. So that's one way to show on the irregular expenses sheet whether or not you've actually made sure you entered those expenses over on the budget sheet. But on the budget sheet, you can add drop-down menus, basically adding a validation to ensure that the values in those cells come from a specific list or whatever. In this case, we want the available irregular expenses to come from the list of irregular expenses that we actually have the calculation on. Now you can see the drop-down allows you to pick only what's available. And if you try to enter something that doesn't exist on the irregular expenses data selection that you chose as the list that is the appropriate values, it will error. So it's not really needed for a spreadsheet like this, but I wanted to show you a little bit of the little nuances I like to add to my spreadsheets as I build them out. Validation is pretty important to me, being a software engineer. I'm used to always checking and protecting the data. So I just wanted to show you a little glimpse of how you might do that in a simple way in your budget spreadsheet. And with that, we have a useful version of our budget spreadsheet. Check out the next video in this mini-series to see how we will expand and grow this spreadsheet so we can kind of project what could happen in the next month or with the next set of builds. This series has 4 episodes planned. If you've got questions or requests, leave them in the comments. I'll dig through them all and whip up a part 5 based on what you want added to the budget sheet, because your sheet should work for you. Got a spreadsheet win or a formula fail? Drop it in the comments and share your sheet. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep your cells clean and your formulas tight. And remember, don't just use your sheet, know your sheet.